everyone, and welcome to the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show. I'm your host, Matthew Head, and in this episode, I'm talking to Alex Onalaja. He's the co-founder and MD of TAD360, where he provides consulting on websites, including SEO, social media, and marketing. He's the chair of the board at CASO, which is a non-profit that supports young people to break through barriers. He's published his own books, Lost and Found, The Secret to Unlocking Potential in 30 Days. He's also been featured in Forbes and named in the top 50 inspiring and influential Black voices in tech by Tech Nation. I will put links to his companies, his books, and some of his articles in the show notes, which will be available at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great that you're here. What I wanted to start with really is that I was skimming through some of your profile and realised that you did a talk at Williams Racing about your background, and being a bit of a motorsport geek myself. What was it like to be shown around the Formula One factory?
Unfortunately, it happened during COVID, so I didn't get a chance.
No. How unglamorous.
I know, like, they reached out to me, like, they were like, oh, yeah, I was like, yeah, Williams Racing, yeah, I'm going to go and see the car. And they go, oh, sorry, it's COVID, so you have to kind of just, do it remotely. I was like, great. But they still hold me a tour, so they said once, the COVID calmed down, obviously they'll give me a tour, but how that goes down, right?
So you're just looking through this like Zoom screen trying to work out what's in the background.
Basically.
How did you find a company like that? How did they approach you, and what were they interested in hearing from you?
Podcasts and content I'm actually putting out there within the neurodiversity space. So I believe from my understanding, they said they found me from the Forbes article. With my contribution to autism and obviously neurodiversity at work, and sharing my personal journey as well, which I'm hoping I'll be able to share with your guests here. And they literally just reached out to me and say, you seem like a good fit to our upcoming events, and we wanted to know your pricing. The prices were tough, but under moderate negotiation, basically we came to a time, and it was enjoyable.
Yeah, that's good fun. So talking about your neurodiverse background, at what time in life did you find out you were dyslexic?
I've always had a feeling something wasn't right from a very young age. So I'll probably say, for example, my brother was reading from as little as probably 2 years old. Literally I'm talking, he picks up newspaper, he reads it like a grown-up, with eloquent words and big, vocabularies. And I'm just like, yeah, great. Thanks for making me look so rubbish, right? It carried on like that for so long. I would probably remember some days where in the front of the class, I've been asked to, read out loud. And I kid you not, I cannot finish a sentence. It's literally like I'm stuck on just one word. Is like, especially even when they ask you to read things that has the TH at the end. So like vets. And I'm just like, I hated Bible studies because of that, because they had a lot of those type of words. And I'm just like, I can't get past these words. So, to get back to the question, I've always had a feeling something wasn't right. But I just didn't know enough about it to even know how to even address it or manage it or anything of that nature. But everything actually came to light in my final year of uni. When I almost basically failed, my degree level, entry level, which was pretty tough. Even in college days as well, it was mentioned that something is wrong, but in denial as well of, trying to be like, yeah, I did it myself, self-made and everything. I tried to turn a blind eye on it. I was like, wherever got me past college will definitely get me through university, and wherever get me through university will get me through in life. But the reality of it is you don't know what you don't know. And, I had to basically be humble and just basically get off my pride of I can do it myself. And I was introduced to an agency at the time where they specialize in helping people get diagnosed, young adults basically get diagnosed. And I got into the program. They found out I was dyslexic, and they said there seemed to be a spike of other neurodiversity as well, but it's not their areas of expertise. So they'll need to probably refer me to other parties.
Oh, okay.
So fast forward, basically, the benefit of that, basically, I was given a laptop, which was cool. But the laptop obviously also had like some cute, cool gears inside as well. Like I remember it was Dragon 11 at the time. So meaning you can, technology has moved on since then. Microsoft Word can do practically the same thing. But at the time, it was kind of, one of its kind.
And Scott said when I was at uni.
Yes. There you go. Times have changed over time. From that, basically, I kind of managed to find myself around content writing and being able to articulate myself in documents. I also had people like, professionals proofreading my content as well, or any of my, I say content a lot now because I'm a marketer. So
you content, you mean basically dissertations, and
exactly,
reports,
right? Absolutely. My assignments and assessments, and so they were helping me with like articulating my words and concluding on my words, because one of the problems you have as a dyslexic is you're great at numerous ideas, but then when it comes to bringing it to conclusion, it's just almost like this, force that basically that just kind of gets in the way, and you just cannot bring everything back home. So basically, that was one of my biggest challenges. Like, I know what I'm talking about, but I can't explain it in a way that everybody can understand, because the way I understand it sounds like blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But to me, it sounds like, whoa, that is genius type of thing. So, but over time, I've learned to just know how to manage it. And with the help of, people like my partner, my assistants, my social media team, everyone basically is on board. They know he's full on dyslexic. Don't even ask him to spell his name, because sometimes he might get it wrong. So, but and that's kind of like led me to kind of just stick to my strength, really. And that's my journey finding out.
So what were you studying at university at the time?
So I was studying at the time Internet Communication and Network. Let's call it IT for the sake of simplicity. So it's IT, the non-fancy stuff.
So a technical subject then, which probably suited some of your other skills of the sort of big picture thinking and being able to.
Absolutely.
I studied engineering, and I used to find that I could sort of visualize in my head how the materials were working. And I imagine, did you do a similar thing when you were kind of working out stuff?
I actually did engineering as well in college.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I actually, funny enough, got double distinction. I don't know how. Literally, at the blink of my teeth, I'm basically trying to pull my hair out. But when I got to uni as well, I kind of deflected from, or redirected myself from engineering, because I realized there was more reading and more, paperwork, and, in comparison to when we were in college, where it was more hand-on. So I kind of ran away from that, run into IT, thinking, well, IT should be more programming, more, technical stuff rather than actually literatures. Boy, was I wrong. Literally, I got back in there, and it was just more paperwork, everywhere kind of thing. But I pulled through and managed to get out of it.
Yes. Sometimes you sort of, you think you're doing the thing to kind of, for want of a better phrase, run away from having to do all the writing stuff, and then bang, it hits you and you're like, hey, I was trying to avoid this.
Exactly.
So you went and got statemented or diagnosed with dyslexia, and you were saying about looking back in your younger days, you're saying college, they mentioned that there's something not quite right. How come it never quite got tipped into formally testing you to see what was not going on the way they expected?
And this is where it actually all makes sense. Basically, I spent half of my life basically in Nigeria, Lagos to be precise.
Right, okay.
So the education system down there is, as you can imagine, it's not really, national standards, if that kind of makes sense. There's quite a lot of, different processes to the way they do things. So, for example, in one day, you can be processing, let's say, up to 7 subjects. So that's like maths, English, physics, further mathematics, religion subjects, PE. So literally like in one agriculture, basically. So it's like in one day, you're doing like about 7 subjects. So every hour, basically, I know, like every hour is like literally it changes. So it's like you can barely perhaps one subject, and it's like before you know it, next hour it's French, next hour it's something else, and you just like, oh gosh. And yeah, and obviously
grab your brain.
Yeah, basically. But my brother was thriving in this type of spaces. Like, literally comes home with his C's and everything, whilst my grades were like, my grades were horrible. They were horrible. I don't want to talk about you on there. That's how horrible it is. But yeah, and looking back now, if I actually had the right support from a very early age, I believe I would probably be in a much better position right now, because I know what my strengths were and what my weaknesses were, and I would rather play to my strengths. Actually, the worst part for me, actually, and obviously you've not asked this, but it just relates to what you just mentioned before. It's the fact that it got to a point, my younger brother, because we were both studying in Nigeria at the time, my younger brother was doing so well that I'm 1 year older than him, so he wasn't a year below me. But I was doing so rubbish in my year that I had to basically come to his year. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And then I got to his year, I still couldn't progress. I was okay in maths and physics, but when it comes to anything literature related, I was just rubbish. So that kept pulling me back. And it got to my year, basically, and then I got to his year, and I repeated his class. Yeah. If that kind of makes sense. And then when I actually got to that stage, you would have thought, okay, maybe from that I would have picked up because of my brother and everything. Yeah. No, it was the wrong way around again. I was about to get demoted again from his class.
Blimey. That was going to be really tough for you.
Absolutely. Because it just didn't make sense.
No. Older brother drops into, I'd say, younger brother's class.
And then it's about to...
he goes through and you're still struggling with it.
Basically about to,
How that must have ruined your self-esteem.
Absolutely. Literally, my self-esteem was literally flushed down the toilet on that day. So literally, I've always been very competitive since then, even with my brother till today. Till today, basically, there's still that competitive drive. But on the flip side of things, basically, that was a very, very challenging time for me. But there's still got some good story, like, sticking to my strengths, which I hope to touch upon at some point.
Yes. But sounds like you're a right survivor at least. So you come over or just so determined to beat your brother.
Well, after one of the two, probably, we'll check that.
So you come over to the UK, college, university, get statement with dyslexia. As you said, you found the tools, particularly Dragon. It's the same here. I really struggled to get anything out of my head, and Dragon saved me during my sort of later years of university. Yeah. And you roll out, you seem to do a lot of developing businesses.
Yeah. I got bored easily, which is why I think I've got some sort of other spectrum in me somewhere. I don't know if it's the entrepreneur side of me that is obviously causing that, or it's the actual potential ADHD, which, it's still not diagnosed yet. So I can, it's not even something to be proud of sometimes, like knowing that you're broken, and it's just like,
Did you ever have a kind of quote unquote regular job, or have you always tried entrepreneurship?
That's another story, basically. And I'll try to make it very, very short.
I don't know. I like long stories.
Yeah. So right. I'll probably elaborate a little bit. So, so after finishing uni, as you can imagine, obviously you have this, you have this fantasy world where, like, you feel like, yes, I'm going to get my dream car, I'll get my dream home, I get my dream wife, you know what I mean? And that was kind of all the, like, I had all that fantasy in my head, like, But then when I graduated, basically I graduated in the peak of the recession recovery. So that would have been like 2008 was the recession. 2012 was most countries were actually, like, obviously trying to recover back. And at that time, basically jobs were very difficult. Literally people were losing their jobs, and even to acquire a new job was very tricky. And I didn't have industry experience either. Everything was kind of pretty much wherever you taught in school or in university, no hands-on experience. So that basically was an advantage in itself. And then you have the race is another thing, which obviously, quote unquote, some people obviously say it's not a problem around here, but the 1% margin, it's already kind of, closed. We already have someone of color around here, so we don't need more colors, if that makes sense. There's that element there. And obviously, and the last one basically is the fact that I'm also dyslexic. So it's like, so when I go there, I'm going like, okay, right, I'm dyslexic. I'm passionate about my job. I want to literally serve you for the rest of my life. Where do I sign type of thing? And they just go, we don't really think you being dyslexic around the team is kind of really, when I tell them what I need Dragon 13, I need this, a special PC. I need this little thing to help with my lens so it's easy for me to read on screens and stuff like that. And you just think, it sounds like a big problematic disability, thing going on here. So literally, I kid you not, I applied for 1,000 jobs. Graduate jobs. This is not just every other day job. I like graduate job to be precise. And in something I've actually studied, I've devoted 3 to 4 years of my life. Let's say education system, basically almost like 10, 15, 12 years to get to that point. And it just basically didn't work. Every interview comes up with the same thing. I'm afraid, unfortunately. It got to a point I became numb to those 2 words. Because it's just like, you just open it. I don't even read anything. The first thing I do is I just do Control F, put in afraid or unfortunately. If he picks it up, I'm out. I don't even read the rest. So that was that. And at that point, I knew, okay, right, it's game over. I thought my world was over. My brother passing me in life basically is kind of about to unravel itself on me and everything. And looking back now, it's traumatic. I must admit, because I literally at the time I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know it was called depression, but I actually got to, what I mean. So basically, I fell deep into depression. Just waking up every morning feeling like I don't feel like going anywhere. I don't feel like doing anything. I just want to stay in bed all day and just do nothing. And I was basically in that dark moment for a very long time. So until obviously I wrote my own book, which is the one obviously I'll probably get back to later on. And that book basically is almost like a roadmap to how I actually found myself. And I was actually able to get out of that and get into into gear with myself, like unlearn everything I learned and then find what I'm actually really passionate about. And I've always been passionate about how people think, how people make buying decisions. Which I should have actually maybe tried psychology perhaps, but more paperwork. And I'm like, no.
A psychology book is a big thing to get your teeth into, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I just thought, no way on earth I'm going that path. And there has to be something else. And I kind of, that's how I stumbled into marketing really. And obviously, and I realized a lot of businesses are also dinosaurs, like when it comes to their online marketing strategies. So, it just made sense. Like I'm a problem solver, I like to connect the bridge. And the one thing I've always struggled with is communication, and I thought obviously this is actually a great way to use what I actually know how to do to obviously help businesses close that bridge and obviously connect to their buying clients. And that's kind of basically ideally how I found myself in entrepreneurship, to be honest. 10 years in and not looking back.
No, great. It's the applying for jobs out of uni is a nightmare, isn't it?
Absolutely nightmare. Have you seen the process of applying as well?
Yes.
Some application takes 2 days.
Yep. Yeah, and then you 2-day application, lots of writing in like 800 words. Can you tell us where you really, really want to work for this company? Well, because I think it's awesome and I think I can add something to your team. But I'm like, I like this 2 paragraphs. Then a psychometric test just to kind of...
Oh, thank you.
Just to really ruin it.
Literally, it's like the moment I see that, I just be like, oh yeah, here comes the rake. It's going to rake everything out. It's going to rake all the good talents and just leave whoever is the best of the best out there. It's really, well, that's kind of one of the things I was actually talking about in my contribution to in one of the Forbes articles. It's basically around that. It's around the fact that employers are missing a trick. When it comes to neurodiversity people, they are very loyal. And if you can actually have one who's actually capable of doing the task at hand, it will be with that company forever.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's kind of essentially what most employers are looking for. Retention, like, the same way you require staff retention, you require client retention, it should just be just as important. But unfortunately, they outsource everything to recruitment companies who are actually just all about making sure the right person gets through the door, that has all the, flying colors, grades, and top-notch industry experience, and, and just wins everything else away.
Yeah. It's a frustrating process. I actually remember some of my classmates at uni coaching me through various stages of the employment process to try and get me. Because they're like, well, you get same grades as me. Yeah. We work together. We study together. Yeah. We all go in the same exams.
Absolutely.
But he's like a assessment centre ninja, and I wasn't even getting invited.
You're not getting invited to the party.
No, I need something to do. I'm definitely not going back to fixing lorries,
Yeah, definitely not.
So it's soul destroying. And, it's funny really that you're not the first person that I've spoken to this podcast who gets in marketing. It seems to be an industry that's a right hub for dyslexic people. And
absolutely.
And I kind of wonder why, really. I'm sort of thinking, connecting all the dots, I guess. Mm-hmm. And particularly now with modern marketing, it's very, very visual. Mm-hmm. It must be data-driven. Yeah, data-driven and visual. Must suit you really well, does it?
Absolutely, because I don't need to read. I live and breathe analytics and data and making things make sense. Because clients basically, they look at it and go, what's that? And I'm like, ooh. That looks like a venture, and it's just helping them connect that dot and obviously making everything make sense. And I guess obviously going back to your question, why are there more basically dyslexic people basically diving into marketing? It's mainly because it's creative. So most things are actually like more like visuals. So there's a pattern of visual there. Problem solving is another one. We see things in patterns. We can recognize patterns very quickly. Yes, and as a result, basically, we're able to pick up on things that people are not seeing, which obviously is an upper hand. It's a upper hand, should I say?
Yeah.
In some situations, because you're picking up on things that even your competitors don't pick up on. And that basically they'll go like, what's innovative about you? I'm like, me? Dyslexic thinking, that's innovative, well, it works for me anyway. I'll close a lot of deals based on just that little statements. But so just to get back to what you were saying before, so it's about creativity, problem solving, and the ability to actually understand things that don't make sense. Marketing don't make sense because people buying behavior is literally changing. Like, do you actually realize the human's attention span is actually currently around 3 seconds?
Oh, I had heard something about this. Yeah. Yes, it's about the average TikTok.
basically, even it's actually dropped below a goldfish. A goldfish is between 7 and 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Humans' attention span is actually dropped to 3 seconds. So it's like, what's going on? Very soon it's going to turn to like, milliseconds, and we all be like, literally, it's like decision, like anyways, all that fascinates me. It's like the way people process things.
It is, and it's like I find myself doing it. It's like, put your mobile phone down.
It's addictive.
Yeah. Why is it back in my hand? Why am I scrolling blindly? And then you scroll back up and realize, how long have I been sat here? No, that's not a very great video. That's not a great video. That's not a great video. That's not a great video.
Oh, yeah. I think the worst one are the cat videos. They actually trap you all day. Because they just do all these hilarious things that just make you keep scrolling all day long.
Yeah. So how do you get into that 3 seconds? That's got to be the thing. Is it making a splash that grabs somebody to stop them scrolling for a start?
Basically, just being out of the ordinary. Like, because what tends to happen on social medias or any sort of platform is all the same thing. We're all trying to get attention, right? So we say all sorts and do all sorts. But if everything you actually see are all following exactly the same pattern, what happens? You go into autopilot mode.
Yes.
Or if everything you're actually seeing is actually going in the same pattern, all of a sudden something is hard. That's where dyslexic comes in. We create content that disrupts how things actually traditionally works. And as a result, we're able to actually capture attention of the people you actually want to, who are actually interested in whatever we're trying to put in front of them. And that's how business is potentially done.
No, it's great, isn't it? Your ability to work out how to leverage your dyslexia to improve your career.
Absolutely.
After the early fights of it really being a problem to you, that mental shift, which you touched on earlier, you've alluded to in your book. So how did the book idea come about? Because I mean, for me, writing a book as a dyslexic person seems super intimidating, but the almost fancy doing one as a bit of a, yes, I did that kind of thing. Like a conquering kind of thing. Like,
exactly.
You and me are not friends book, but I'm going to write one anyway.
Well, I'll probably share with you how I kind of go around that. One, basically, I use quite a lot of recordings. Yes. So I just record. I've got one of those recording device, but I've also got my phone as well. So I just kind of do diaries of what I'm talking about. So I found this website as well where you actually use for like word to text. So wherever you actually say, basically kind of convert it. Then I found out Microsoft Word also has something similar. So I kind of used that as well to achieve that. So I just wrote a lot of rubbish. Basically,
you do well at selling this book.
Well, basically, I just wrote a lot of rubbish because at the time, basically, I'm just going off, right, how do I feel today? Okay, so try to identify like, okay, right, what's affecting the way I process the things? Okay, let me just take one day to be very positive and see how the day kind of materializes itself. So basically, I'm just documenting everything around me, like around this journey of me trying to find myself, because ultimately, that's what my journey has all been all about. It's like I couldn't actually function because I didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's basically trying to help people now basically reconnect back to what do you stand for? Why do you wake up every single morning? What's that drive that gets you out of bed? It's clearly not, the 9 to 5, but that, but clearly no one actually, look forward to sitting in the motorway for, God's long, minutes and hours, basically trying to get to work, or, that coffee that basically is like, tastes a bit kind of, like you rather just, so there's all that to factor in. So it's like, there must be a why. And that's kind of what the book was actually aimed at. Trying to help people find their why. And from there, basically, people just basically find their whys and flourish, how to use your strengths to complement your weaknesses. Everyone has a weakness. Superman has his own weakness, but does he dwell on that? So it's things like that, trying to just help people shift that mindset and understand that they are basically of significant importance, just like anything else in this world. Everything we've come into this world to see basically was created by someone who's no smarter than we are. It's just the way they actually saw the, they saw the outward of the universe, and basically and they used that a lot of forces, like things like law of attraction. Even funny enough, we even use that in marketing, law of attraction, basically, and it's all the same. So just helping people understand is fundamental, basic. It's not the best book. I won't say it's the best type of book, but it was like something to kind of get me in there. And another thing I did differently as well was, instead of writing a very thick, 500-page book or anything like that, I'm dyslexic. You won't catch me reading that book. I'll tell you that for free. You won't catch me reading that book. So instead, I kind of made it like a short bite. I believe it's about 59 pages.
Oh, okay.
You can finish the book in 30 days.
Yes.
Someone has actually finished the book on a train journey from Manchester to London. So it is possible you can even finish it that sooner. It's not technical at all. It's just telling you very basic things and things you can apply literally like today. And ultimately, the book is also, potentially going to be available in audio as well. And it's going to be in series as well, a series of 7. So instead of you picking up a whole big 500-page book, you can actually pick and select the book that actually applies to the state that you're at in your life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of ideally how the book was basically channeled. And the aim is to actually help people who are also dyslexic to actually get partially into reading as well. Something that can actually, they say readers are leaders. So obviously trying to get more dyslexic people to be leaders type of thing in our own right. And that's ultimately how the book basically sprung up.
Oh, nice. So did you write the book while you were working through your own depression and negative thoughts? So it's kind of almost therapy for you that you've stuck to a page.
Absolutely. I ended up with quite a lot of pages that just got to a point just didn't make any sense.
Right. Okay.
That's what I mean by, like, obviously it was all rubbish. Not in the sense, obviously, not the quality of what's inside, but it's not the fact, obviously, nothing that actually made sense until my editor basically put everything together and say, oh, that connects to this and this connects to that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Because at the end of the day, I cannot dispute the fact that they know what they're talking about. And ultimately, they were able to achieve the ultimate goal, which is get me a book that I can actually put together a book that can that the reader can digest in less than 30 days.
Oh, no, that is really cool. And what sort of techniques were you using on yourself? Obviously, the book documents it.
Yes.
How you said you look back on it, realizing it was a episode of depression, but at the time you didn't, and you managed to pull yourself out of it without knowing what you dropped into. So what are the kind of catalysts that got you moving in a more positive direction, do you think?
First of all, for me, it's you have to manage. One thing I've noticed about being neurodiverse, basically, is it's an energy thing. Okay, something that would take, let's say, an average neurotypical individual, right, to read in, let's say, in 1 hour. Okay, if you're dyslexic and you read that same content, you feel like it's taking the whole day.
Yeah.
Do you kind of get where I'm coming from? It's exhausting.
Yes. It is.
So that's one of the things I actually picked up on very quick. I'm not tired. I'm exhausted because I'm dyslexic. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's changing. It's changing our understanding of our weaknesses. Superman is basically not weak because of the green stone or anything of that nature. Are you with me? Is Superman all day, every day until he comes across that. But does he dwell on that and keep that green stone in his pocket so he can actually be getting more tired or anything like that?
No, of course he doesn't.
Exactly. So that's exactly my point. So it's like what we are doing basically as dyslexics, in most cases I've found, is that we are kind of limiting our beliefs.
Yes.
So they say, you can't do this. And you just accept, yes, I can't do it because I'm dyslexic. It's not true. If anything, dyslexic is actually an enabler. Enables you to actually do certain things that certain people can say. It's a view of the world from a different eyes or different lens type of thing. So I basically kind of start looking at a lot of things like that, bit by bit, and restructuring and reframing my understanding of the world around me and the standards that has been set by people before me.
Yes.
And now I'm actually now making a new standards. I'm making a new beginning, a new me. It's like, new year, new me. People do this in January. Obviously, come February, they're kind of giving up on the goals. Ideally, for me, it was like, it was kind of like that kind of structure. So like basically like breaking down things that I do well, things that actually, did wrong, my highlight moments, my lowest moments, how did I overcome it? And trying to understand the relationship between good and bad, relationship between up and down. And it's just, understanding those pick and trust and everything. And it's just essentially basically how I kind of managed to kind of piece together a mind shift, I call it, that actually helped me kind of just stop thinking about what people say about me. That doesn't matter. What do I think about myself is more important than anything else. And that's kind of basically the ultimate answer to it.
Yes, it's just had a guest I recently recorded with, and it's them words that probably we should, as dyslexic people, would not be allowed to use. Because I'm dyslexic, because it's only most of the time you're only ever attaching them words to a negative trait or thought, isn't it?
That is exactly what it is. It's about affirmations in the right direction.
Yes.
You know your disabilities, but don't dwell on it. Don't walk into a room and go, "Hey, everybody, I'm dyslexic. This is a dyslexic guy in the house. There's a big elephant in the room." You know what I mean? Don't be that guy, basically.
And it's also like, think about it. We're just like, how are you able to learn things so quickly via images and video, for argument's sake?
Yeah,
because I'm dyslexic. But nobody ever says it like that. It's always
absolutely the negative aspect of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't pronounce this word because I'm dyslexic. I can't do this because I'm dyslexic. I'm like, come on, stop using this as a getaway card. It doesn't, it doesn't help.
And it's just as your sort of analogy with kryptonite was great, really. Superman doesn't hang on to it.
Yeah.
But having this rock that you're walking around with because I'm dyslexic taped around the outside, it's not. It sort of slows everybody down.
Absolutely.
And as you've proven, directly you get rid of the stone, the kryptonite, the rock, whatever, and attitude you want to use, you start to thrive. Your business is growing, your marketing is growing. you get yourself into places like Williams Racing, or virtually places like Williams Racing, which is no sort of mean feat.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And you published a book, which must feel exciting for some.
Well, I've got. Well, don't get me excited. I've got 4 more to do before the end of next year, so I'm not excited about that.
You've given yourself some work to do there.
Yeah. Well,
can you tease us with how the other 4 are going to look?
So the other 4 basically is kind of mirroring my journey again. So the next one basically is around before you quit your 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea of being an entrepreneur, basically, people think it's what you see on Instagram, the Rolex, the nice cars and everything. But what they don't show is actually what actually goes on behind the scene. And that's kind of what I'm trying to take my readers on that journey, basically, to understand that, everything is all rosy, but there's also, there's a flip side to the coin. And that flip side to the coin is actually far more important. And I'll be able to, something I didn't actually do in the first book is I didn't actually relate the book to myself much. I detached myself from the book, which obviously has been one of the constructive criticism that I've actually taken on board. Before, when someone says something negative, I say, oh, it's a bad review or it's a bad feedback or anything like that. But now I call it constructive criticism. It's open for me to consider, but it's not necessarily. I sold over 3,000 copies of that book, even though it's still rubbish. Even though it's got a bad review, it's still sold quite a lot because I stuck to my strength. I'm a marketer. I got a thing on Facebook and we flipped a lot of copies out. And that's kind of what I kind of try to concentrate on. I don't concentrate on, the naysayers or anything like that because I know whatever they say doesn't necessarily apply to me. It's just an opinion from their point of view. And I have to respect it, take it, or I leave it. So essentially the whole essence of this new book is to actually relate it to myself, my personal experience, bootstrapping a business, seeking investment, raising funds, stabilizing your family, your 6 months, survival budget and stuff like that before you start a business. Even in the first place, are you an entrepreneur or a solopreneur? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And are you actually just better at just being an entrepreneur within a bigger corporation? Does that make sense?
Okay,
So because sometimes it's not about jumping out of the ship and building a plane or wherever else you read on, those quick snap and grab kind of content.
Yeah,
but it's more like
plane on the way down.
Basically, like you'll be shocked, you'll be crashing before you know it. But the whole idea is basically like showing people the whole full picture from my point of view, or even from people who have been before me's point of view. Of things to watch out for and simplify the whole process and obviously and be as human as possible. Tell all the raw story, things people don't like to actually discuss, and help people see things better and make a better buying decision or a better life decision, should I say, to change their life and their family's life.
Yeah, no, that's going to be an interesting series of books as you walk through. That's going to be good fun. I see you're starting to do some coaching now.
Yes.
Rather than working, I think there's a video of you saying rather than working with companies, it's all about the individual now, or something along those lines.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. And it's all about that because, for me, I've worked closely with businesses. I can do it in my sleep, but what I think is actually more important is if I can actually have more people out there, see the world from a different point of view, see the world as winners, Because even being alive alone, it's, people talk about money. They're like, oh, I need £1 million. I need £2 million. I'm like, that's a number. Think about the most valuable thing you actually have that nobody else have. Yeah. And that's even being able to wake up every morning. That in itself is a big currency. A billionaire will basically trade that for you to have one more day.
Yes. Yeah.
And people don't see that. So it's just all about shifting the mindset. And that's kind of what my aim is, basically helping and coaching and mentoring as much people. Well, the aim is 100,000 people.
Wow.
But I know.
Wow. That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. So, and for me, basically, it's all about, getting on the right podcast, getting the right, creating visibility, basically. And, and obviously sharing, contents people can relate to, and ultimately, hopefully, over time, 100,000 people would look up to me for right guidance based on my little wisdom and understanding of how the world should actually work. And if they reach their full potential, which a lot of them actually is, one of my mentors basically, his charity raised almost £200,000 in the last 2 years to help his charity costs and everything. Even in difficult times, they're still going. Some of them basically, she's actually a DJ at the moment. She's like literally DJing all over the EU and, Africa and other places just off the back of just my coaching, obviously, over the past few years. So there's all that kind of success stories. And I'm like, the world needs to know about this, and stuff like that. So, so ultimately, that's kind of how or why I'm actually pushing that side of things as well, moving forward.
How are you finding the transition to individual coaching from businesses?
To be honest, it's relatively still the same, because it's still ultimately the same thing. People. We're all people before we even become business owners. We're all people before, So it's just basically just going back to the basics. That's what I mean. Like, the life is very simple. It's just we human beings just have a way of complicating everything.
Yes, we do. Nice. And I bet you use the same strengths.
Yes.
With your coaching, don't you? The bigger picture thinking, connecting the dots.
Yeah. Absolutely. I see things people don't see. And that for me is an advantage.
Yes, and it's an advantage for them if they're your clients as well eventually.
Absolutely. I need to be that watchdog, someone that sees the things you don't see. And that's what they're paying for, essentially.
And sometimes we all need that, don't we? We need somebody else to point out the things that we're completely missing.
It's called a blind spot for a reason.
It is indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So, clearly you've turned things around.
I'm sorry. I warned you beforehand.
But you clearly turn things around from not getting a job straight at uni after dreaming what your life's going to be, through to your, get all the rejections, and then writing yourself a book out of that, and now helping other people, and being mentioned in big things like Forbes and Tech Nation. How does that feel to be in them sort of big publications after where you started post-university? Or even back in the days when you were being pumped down to your brother's class. It's a fair
I know. I wish I could actually turn around and find those teachers again. I'm like, oh, yeah, you were saying? Exactly. But to be honest, I still feel like I've only done 0.1% of what I'm actually here to do. Wow, in this life,
Okay.
So it's literally just I'm still actually at the foundation stage, and that kind of just excites me. It just makes me want to just wake up every morning knowing that, okay, right, another day, 100% is yet to come. I think it's just, you can't get comfortable. You have to be a student of long life learning. You have to be open to innovation. You have to. The only thing that is actually constant is change.
Okay.
And we just have to learn. We just have to learn to embrace it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems as well for even as a neurodiverse individual. It's like we don't like change in general, and that's something that I'm beginning to actually learn to actually just embrace. That I cannot change the fact that I step out of the house in the morning, I approach my car, try to start the engine, and there's a possibility that the engine might not come on, or there's a possibility that my tire is probably deflated overnight. There's different variables. So don't get clinged on to the idea of, you want to be in control of everything. It's impossible. Just do the 50% and let the rest of the universe take care of the rest of the 50%. That's the way I see it.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. One day you might bump into teachers and be like, open the Forbes website and be like, have you seen this?
But I'm sure wherever they are, hopefully when I actually get to the peak of my career, wherever they are, they'll probably look at my picture and go, yeah, I once taught that boy. I'm like, yeah, what did he teach me exactly? I have to get the worst grades.
Yeah. You do wonder sometimes, don't you? Right, cool. I'm going to start bringing this podcast to a close. And what I have is, at the end of each podcast, I ask the guests 3 rapid-fire questions. They're quick questions from me, but they don't need quick answers from you. So the first one is, what prejudice have you had about dyslexia that's been proven wrong?
The fact that obviously being dyslexic means obviously you're probably not smart or you're probably dumb. And I actually have a short story as well, which I'll probably share with you on this. This is back in Nigeria, basically. One of my favorite subjects is actually maths and physics. And cool. As you can imagine, like I said before during the podcast, is like I'm not really the best in school when it comes to like literature related stuff. But this particular day, basically, 200 students took this test. Okay, it's a 14 question maths test, and out of it, the 200, only 2 people got 13 out of 14.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So in my head, basically, I'm like, you know what? First of all, 2 people out of 200. I'm not there. I am not there. I will tell you that for free. But to my surprise, the first person was actually called. Everyone was like, whoa, yeah, everyone expected it because he's a mathematical genius.
Yeah.
And when the second person got called, I kid you not, the head moved away from my feet. Literally, I felt like I was standing in the middle. You know what I mean? So it's like, I literally like told the teacher, like, I'm sure that there must be a mistake. Like maybe my name was mixed up in the wrong bag or something. I don't know what's going on here, but that ain't me. And they said, nope. We've looked at it. 2 teachers have actually reviewed it again because they weren't sure. When they were like, this must be a mistake. They've had the same conversation in the office, you know. And they've actually reviewed it, edited it and everything. And it's just like, it still comes back to the same conclusion that it is, yes, genuinely me. And that for me proved me right. Like I just thought from that moment, I felt like, you know what? Yeah. I'm a genius. I dropped the mic on that situation. I'm like, I'm a genius, you know. But I kid you not. After then, I stopped pulling my weight. Mathematics. No,
that's great. And I wonder if later on in life that kicked on little sort of catalyst in your brain somewhere.
Absolutely. There are moments where obviously I give myself a bit of a kick in the back with that moment because, you do come across some challenges where you feel like, oh, maybe they are right all along that I'm not smart. But then again, you remember that moment. Remove that moment again and it just keeps you going.
Yes, most definitely. Okay. The second question is, if an alien landed and you had to describe dyslexia to them, how would you do it?
Google Gaga.
I need to answer this question at some point that this alien does understand English.
Exactly.
Well, somebody could please write in and translate the answer. What's just a minute ago? Okay. And the final question in this round of questions is, seeing as this is called the Dyslexia Life Hack Show, what is your favourite dyslexia life hack?
Being ahead of everyone. It's very important. It is. Because, for example, like I get up 5 o'clock every morning. And people think no matter what time I go to bed, I always aim to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But people are like, what do you gain? Or, you think like you're some Superman or you're just special. No, I'm not special. It's just, I know one thing. It's like, I'm a turtle. And people around me are like fox. They can run fast. They're like, super fast. But I'm slow. But I'm very steady. So if I want to win the race, I have to be awake from yesterday. If we're going to be running a race today, I need to start running from yesterday. And that for me is my take on basically on being dyslexic is about, one of my growth hack basically is be prepared. I get up 5 o'clock in the morning, like I said before. My team basically probably start coming online for about, let's say, 9 o'clock. I've got literally a good 4 hours advantage time to predict anything that they might probably have, to solve any problem they might probably obviously come across. And I just look like I'm always prepared. I'm not. I'm just physically I'm just sticking to my dyslexia strengths, really.
Yes, you've got after it and got ahead of it all.
Absolutely.
While everybody else is sleeping, you're already started the day.
Absolutely.
Time to go to bed out of interest then?
Well, useless times, I would say. Sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh dear, sleep deprived and caffeine fueled, right? Yeah. Cool. Well, before we sign off, where can people find you, and is there anything else you'd like to add?
You can find me on my website, alexonalaja.com, which I'm probably sure will be in the description of your podcast.
It will be.
If you probably need digital marketing, consulting advice, anything of that nature as well, you can reach me at tad360.com. That's Tango Alpha Delta 360.com. And and I'm available on most social platforms as We Are Successors. Just do hashtag We Are Successors. That should probably come up somewhere. And yeah, I'm an open book. Reach out to me. There's no harm. I don't bite. You can take off that far.
I might just leave it. Cool. Well, thank you, Alex, for taking the time to come on the show this evening. It's been really good fun chatting to you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I want to thank everybody else for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye for now.